Hi, friends. I'm Cassie,
I'm Sarah.
and we are a Shire Thing.
So today we're going to be back to talking about writing. We're going over what inspires us, what has inspired our current works, as well as our process with outlining or lack thereof.
Absolutely. Sarah, you've got more inspiration, or at least more works to talk about. So, talk to me about what inspired Maze.
So, the book that we have dubbed Maze, because titling hasn't happened yet for these books, um, that one was a second nightmare. So, I talked in a previous video about how getting back into writing, I had this crazy nightmare. I wrote everything down. This was along the same lines. And this
Okay.
work, it takes place where they're on an island, there's really no way out, and there's a lot of danger. A lot of the instances that happen within the book were in the dream. So, again, instead of waking up terrified, I woke up and reached for a journal and I wrote down as much as I could possibly remember about this crazy dream because it made a really good dystopian sci fi. So for my second book, the working title is An Axe in the Weaving. This is my Norse-inspired novel that I've talked about previously. The inspiration was a little different. It was more about reading a book that I was highly disappointed in because I felt that the character didn't accurately reflect the culture. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to be talking about tropes that we really don't like in the near future, so I'll kind of leave that rant to that. But this was really inspired by wanting to put a story out there about a strong Norse woman. Um, so that's where the inspiration started for that one. It was a little harder because everything was just coming from what I could think up in that moment versus like a dream to kind of set me off with visuals and things like that.
Absolutely.
So, how was yours inspired?
So, mine was kind of similar to your Norse book, in that I was just frustrated with several books that I had read. And then I was actually thinking about getting back into writing. And so I was listening to the Writing Excuses podcast, and they had somebody on this story, and they were talking about like books that they would like to see. And one of the things that I really wanted was books that portrayed women having really strong friendships with other women. I really like heist novels. And so I kind of conceived of, well, I want to write like a Lady Bro heist book. And then I was like, but I also want it to be, um, I also wanted to kind of take the trope of the chosen one and turn it on its head a little bit, where the chosen one is not actually the main character of the story.
Yes, I love that.
And finally, I wanted to write a book that was about a mother. So there are a lot of stories about young people and what they go through and finding love as a young person. And I felt like I wanted to write about a mother's kind of love, as well as what relationships are like for grown-ups, for adults. And I feel like that's not something that we get incredibly a lot of in fantasy. And so I I wanted to see more of my own experience in the books that I was reading.
That's great. That's a great reason to write.
Thanks.
Truly.
Wait, what about your Fae book? We didn't talk about your inspiration for your Fae book.
Right. I have three works in progresses. So this one also started with a dream. I tend to have very vivid dreams, if you couldn't tell.
Clearly.
Not all of them make good stories by any means. But so this one, what I remembered the most was actually the first line of the story was they'll come for you at dusk and dawn with golden masks and arrows drawn. And I woke up,
Mm-hmm.
what can I use that for? Because that is ominous and crazy. And it kind of takes off from there. So it was kind of a mix
Sure
of like a
does.
dream set it off, but the
Mm-hmm.
rest was more my own imagination. And I really wanted to include more variety of characters and be very inclusive. I'm trying to do that with my novels as best I can. Um, so instead of just focusing on like the Celtic Fae, I also have characters from like Scandinavia and Eastern Europe and Japan. Haruko, I love him. You haven't met him. You need to meet him because he's amazing.
I do.
So from kind of all over the world and from Africa. So again, that one was more research intensive, kind of looking at the fables of the different cultures and the different countries and trying to pull together characters from them. Um,
Absolutely.
so a lot of inspiration kind of came from that one as well.
Cool.
Hmm.
So let's talk about our writing process. Are you an outliner? Are you a pantster? So a pantster is somebody who flies by the seat of their pants, and um, I've also heard it called discovery writing, where you're kind of just discovering your story as you're writing it. So what's your process like?
I've tried both. Um, I would say the Maze book sort of started more as pantsing. So like I wrote
Mm-hmm.
down all of these details. I always outline my characters very descriptively before I start. I try and think of who they
Mm-hmm.
are, what they've been through, what they look like, and things like that. But as plot wise, I sort of just pantsed most of the rough draft, and then I went back and
Mm-hmm.
more clearly outlined where I wanted the characters to start, how I wanted them to move through this world, and where I wanted them to end up. Um, and for the other two, it was very, very detailed outlining. So I've definitely tried both. I do better with outlining now that the Maze book has been more intensely outlined. It's going along much smoothly. Of
Good.
the three, it's the closest to being finished, which is fantastic. In the writing group, they've both been like, "Now this is really nitpicky." I'm like, "No, no, no, be nitpicky. I need nitpicky in this draft."
It's the time for nitpicky.
Um, so basically, what I do is I start with what I want to write, kind of the basic
Mm-hmm.
idea of it, and I really messily write things down. It is chaotic at first. It is all over the place. It's absolutely like Gemini ADD chaos. And then I sort of go through it a little bit better. I develop my characters a little bit better, and the world building and things like that. And then the plot of, and I don't intensely, there's some people who get like very extreme about outlining, like this is everything that's going to happen in each chapter all along the thing. Where I'm more like, here are the points I want to hit. And then I do a little bit of discovery in between of like, I don't know how to quite describe it, but it's, I guess I'm somewhere in the middle, not like an intense outline, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
um, and from there, I just start writing and I see how it goes. And drafting, and I guess that will be a whole different video of drafting and editing and things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and Pinterest is a big one for me. I add my own drawings to secret Pinterest boards. I look for like actor and model headshots for people that I feel are close to how I envision my characters, and I save those. I save pictures of settings that are very close to how I envision them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and music, I guess, is the final piece for preparing to write. I'm a big music person, so I have
Yeah, you
playlists
are.
on Spotify for separate books, separate characters if they have like a very distinct um,
Feel.
feel to them. Like Haruko has a lot of Frank Sinatra on his because he has this like
Mm.
cool confidence about him, and it just feels very like big band swing, even though he's much older than that. He very much
Gotcha.
enjoyed that era, and you can tell within it. He's always wearing a sharp suit. He's always kind of fixing his cuffs and things like that. And I also
Nice.
have playlists for specific scenes, like a sad romantic scene.
Mm-hmm.
Lets me get into the mood. And then I have others for fight scenes, which is a lot of metal and a lot of rock music to kind of get me in that scene. So, Cassie, what about your process with outlining?
So I'm still figuring out my process. I assumed that I would be a very heavy outliner because a lot of authors that I admire are very heavy outliners, and I just kind of assumed that. So I did a lot of character research, and like visual research about what my world is going to be like and about the technology level of my world building. And then I wrote, when I am designing a character, I usually write kind of a short story, a narrative in first person to kind of get into their voice and see what a day in their life is like, or a formative event in their life. So I did some of that. And then I did an outline. This outline, I'm doing a 7-part story structure, so I kind of outlined my major points there. And I wrote an outline, but I'm kind of finding as I'm writing that I'm veering off of I'm not veering off my outline, but I did a pretty detailed outline going through what was going to happen in each chapter, and I'm finding that things are taking significantly longer than I assumed that they would be. So I outlined pretty heavily the first like 18 or 20 chapters and wrote what I thought was going to happen in those chapters, and I'm way behind where I thought I would be by this chapter. So I suppose I am a hybrid outliner pantster, and that I have all of the major points outlined. I know where I'm going. I know the things that need to happen to get there. But when it actually comes to writing, I don't have an outline for each chapter. It's just kind of in my brain, and I pants my way, or discovery write my way through the actual writing. And I think, I don't know about you, but I know that the longer I spend, I think I'll figure out my process more.
So that is our process when it comes to inspiration and outlining, or a little bit of lack thereof. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe.
We would love to hear from you in the comments what your process looks like. I've heard about all these different kinds of outlining, the snowflake method. I think there's this one with like a circle and quadrants, and I'm really curious about what methods work for other people, because I'm still exploring. I know Sarah's still kind of exploring, and I'd love to hear how it works out for you. Don't forget to ring the little bell button so you'll get a notification every time we post a new video.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Okay, my video's back up. And should be back. I'm really annoyed with this part in my bangs today, can you tell? Mm-hmm. Anyway. Okie dokie. Turn it in. I have a knock at my door. I'll put it back. Okay. Yeah. There's my neighbor trying to do a kind thing. Okay. I was listening to the writing podcast. Oh my god, what's it called? You could just say A-writing. Okay. Didn't talk. Okay, gosh, okay. Yeah, what about your Fae book? So my Fae book, that one also started with a dream. My dreams are very vivid, and I tend to remember them very clearly. Mother, you know, it can't happen when I'm having a knock at the door. It has to happen in the middle of a sentence. Sorry. I didn't want to cough on camera. It's not cute. No, you're fine. So we'll start again by I'll say, wait a minute, what about your Fae book? Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Okay. Ready? Mm-hmm. Like, Haruko has a lot of, like, older music, and I can't believe I forgot this person's name, Frank Sinatra. Okay. We're going to pause right here because my boy's about to walk in. Okay. Do you want to cut the video here so that it's not, like, huge, too, for you?